Oh, well, you're ready. We were ready. I never quite master that stat. Oh, okay. So, I have to remember not to forget to introduce myself. So, I am Jackie. I am one of the two hosts of Jackie and Irvin are accidentally in charge. Um, and that was a just beautifully comical introduction to exactly how I do things. Because like the very first video I ever made for my podcast series was like at midnight, and I'm like holding my phone sideways. And then the next one, like there's like a cat knocking the camera over, and I'm just like, okay, I guess this is par for the course. This is how this is gonna go. So, so hello, Kendall, and welcome.
Hello.
And tell me a little bit. Please introduce yourself as well, and tell me a little bit about you.
Yeah, I'm Kendall. I have recently loved when people ask me that because I'm like, I've curated my tagline where I like saying I'm a mental health advocate, and that led to being a mom, and then that led to being an author. And I'm a Drop Dead Generous recipient, and just I love
Woohoo!
it. I love it so much.
Just fabulous. I know. As you know, for me, this is like an early morning thing, and I didn't have as much time to like read up on your background as usual. So for once, like I'm gonna be discovering everything as we go because like I know really minimal things about your project or about what you're doing. So we'll get back to that, but thank you. First of all, like you're the one that was complimenting my smile. I think we were
Yes.
on the we were on the call, and for every single time. So Drop Dead Generous. I've interviewed Tom and John for this show. So anybody who has any curiosity about why that keeps coming up, please like definitely check out their project. But so they have like a monthly call for people that are participating, and I've been following it for just over a year, and every single time I am on that thing, I just like oh, not just while I'm on the call, but like the rest of the day afterward, you know? But I just wanted to tell you because you said that, I went around doing that for like a week. Something about that, like, and I was really excited to get to this interview because something about that, like, that's why I go back to them over and over again is because whatever they're doing, it's just like shedding glitter behind it everywhere it goes, you know, and like leaving a trail and you can just see the light like following it around. So it just, yeah.
So there's a joke in with me and my husband because whenever we're watching something, I'm usually doing something else. And the joke is like, I don't look up a lot because we were watching a show and there was like a character from another show. And I was like, hey, it's him. And my husband's like, he's been in the show for like 45 minutes. I was like, I don't look up. And so I was in a support group once and I'm always doing like listening and doing stuff, and someone complimented someone in the support group and they said, you're the most attentive listener, like your head reacts, you like look. And I was like, oh, I don't like really watch the people. And so I started trying to be mindful of it. And then the next day we had Drop Dead Generous, and I was like, I'm gonna look up and watch everyone's reactions, and then all I see was like you, and I was like, I'm glad I looked up, like this is fun.
Great. Oh man. Yeah, well, just and I think the call you were on was like one of the most extraordinary I've been on. Like that one had some really interesting stories, which included Ethan, the one that did the year of playing catch, and I
Mhm.
just interviewed him for this series as well. And like you know, I was just glad I was there that day. Like they're all so different, but like certain times, you know, you just uh, I don't know. There's never a wrong day to be with that group of humans. But anyway, so how did you first get connected with Drop Dead Generous, or how did you learn about it?
So John had done the walk with Adam floating home,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
I follow Adam on Instagram because it was just like positive messaging. And so then I started watching the walk and I was like sobbing like a baby. And then I made
Oh,
my husband watch the walk and I made like everyone watch it. And because I had watched it, Drop Dead Generous started popping up in the algorithm. And I was like, oh, that is pretty cool. I'm going to apply, and then kind of forgot about it. So then I get this email back that was like very not vague. It was just like no like pictures or anything. And it was just like, hey, you get $500, click this link. But I'm from the States. And so it was like this payment plan for something in the UK. And I told my husband, I was like, yeah, I got it. And we were like, we don't know what this like banking company is. So it was like, he goes, you can't just put our banking in there. So it said you can do a call, but it was with like at the time I didn't know who Tom was. So I was like, well, I can do a call with some Tom guy and like make sure it's legit and talk about it. So I sign up for that and I'm like sitting here and I'm waiting for whoever strange Tom who's gonna give me banking information is. And John pops on and I was like, you're like a celebrity to me. Because we had been watching the videos so much.
Right.
And I was like just in awe. And then I was like, I have to have my husband like come around and see to know like it's real. And so after that, yeah. I mean, after that, like getting to go to this circle thingy and everything, I was like, not only is it real, but there's just so much more to it. And being able to like pop on the calls and chat with him weekly. And I'm just like, it's just this amazing experience that I was like, I know people don't love algorithms and like internet stuff. I'm like, but it always tells me exactly what I need.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I have a complicated relationship with one of my really close people apparently was an early MySpace employee and so has a particularly fierce dislike of the algorithm because like, it was like the thing that kind of came along and outcompeted them or whatever and has introduced me to a social media platform where they're trying to like I think it's called Vero, where they're trying to do it without algorithm, and it's interesting. So it brought that conversation back to my awareness, like how much is this filtering out what we see, or that kind of thing. We've been talking about these issues or whatever. But like you, I've always had just the biggest weird luck with it, like one thing leading to another, leading to the right person, and and we can get back to that because like I feel like we're gonna have some commonalities in our backstory. I can already guess, but yeah, like I knew John before this project because I met him through a different long series of weird coincidences, and so I already knew he was a real person, but it is such a big delight to find other people discovering that in this process because like, yeah, they sound like a bunch of scammers. Wait, you want to give me money? Like, what?
Exactly. Like I've tried to tell people about it who are doing a lot of good things. I was like, you need to reach out to them. Like they're giving out, and I was like, I don't know how to describe this without sounding scammy, but like they give you money. And so it's like, I don't know. I feel like maybe the circle thing is they need to kind of teach us how to use like a lingo. Yeah.
I know, and I never get the numbers right. Like I finally got it after I interviewed them, but I kept saying they were giving away $1 million and it's only $500,000, and like I'm like, can you just make it $1 million so I can get right?
I think that's the goal, right? They want to do another round.
I think that's a good idea to like continue because there's and I've said it before on some of these other interviews. There's just something about $1 million that phrase or whatever, like people are always asking what would you do if you had $1 million, and like it's just there's something very catchy about that bit of it, and I know it's just a number, but anyway, so
I think it'd be deeper for them to say like 1 million acts, like ultimately like it's 1 million grants that are acts of kindness. And so
there you go.
I have a friend, she's doing acts of kindness. So the Merriment Maker, which is a lovely title, she was doing 11,000. Oh, I always screw it up. So I just say like 1111111. And she was doing them. And at first it sounded really daunting because I was like, we had started and I think it was like, oh, we have like 12 acts. And then it just took off and you were like, it became so easy for people to want to fill it. And we ended up, it was supposed to take a year. And I think like in a half a year, I was like, what happens when we're done? And she's like, I don't know, do it again. And I was like, yep, okay. So
that's
it's
incredible
how quickly it can happen once it kind of gets that traction.
Yeah, there's a thing about numbers, I found that, and I'm like, "Ooh, I wanna know." But, this is gonna be one of those. I'm particularly bouncing around today, and I apologize. I'm just like, this is how my brain works anyway, and so I try to keep it, like, a little more, um, focused when I'm actually doing an interview. But, I did a project called 100 Unicycles years ago, and it was to raise money for suicide prevention. And I got the idea from someone who was doing, I think it was 10,000 pieces of art. I think it was the thousand project, something like that. I'm going to get the numbers wrong on that too. I'm not a math person, but they were doing um, a numbered series, and they were the ones that were like, there's a lot of power in doing these, specifically in art, like when you do the numbered, like kind of limited edition, there's a lot of power in
Mhm.
that. And they were like, just put numbers on things. And so I was like, okay, I'll do 100. And then I did the 100 unicycles project, and eventually I expanded it to be the 100 project. So like I am doing 10,000 pieces of art. And yeah, it is daunting, like when you find out like how long that's going to take. Because it took me 2 years to do the first 100 project, and so for the 100 projects, I'm like recruiting other artists, because there's no way I can do that many
Yeah.
pieces of art myself, of course. But so the way it works is like half the money goes to the artist and half goes to the charity. So they support different charities, and the first one
Mhm.
was the Suicide Prevention Project. But anyway, so like the whole point of that though is about the numbers thing, that somehow when you have like a specific number, then you have a really concrete goal, and it's like something people can understand. And when it's like a limited edition, they're like, oh, I own number 5 or something. Like they have like a feeling of
Mhm.
ownership in it. And there's just all these different aspects to it. And I thought that was interesting, like the psychology of counting things or something. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I also so when we decided to like bulk print my book, and so we have 1,000 copies here in my house, and it felt really daunting. We hid the boxes like throughout the house, so it's not just looking at one stack. We had like a lot of traction in the beginning, and it was really exciting. And it was like, but I have to remind
Yeah.
myself that like 200 is closer to the bottom line than the top line. So we still
Sure.
have like 800 books floating around, even though we got rid of a few boxes. And so it's the idea of just trying to be like, all right, we want to put kind of small goals. And my kids have like the cute little, we have a thermometer and stuff. And so it's all like
Oh,
the numbers,
with
but
the crayon where you have to like scribble
yeah.
it in. Yeah.
And then I just had this the other day where I had like met an author, and she was kind of doing this reel about like the price point of the book and it being overwhelming and stuff. And I was like, a lot of our stuff goes to charity, and I think that kind of helps in those numbers when
Yeah.
people say like, oh, you're not
Mhm.
spending $20 on a book, you're giving $20 to a book, and $5 goes here, and $5 goes here,
Yeah.
$5 go here. So ultimately maybe the book is $5, the charity is the 15, and then people kind of aren't as
Right.
overwhelmed because they can see where all of that goes. And so I've been like, I do not like math, but I've been like annoyingly mathing a lot more in life lately than I wanted to. But I guess that was what happened when I decided to like do a business.
Yeah, yeah. I had to do a lot of math for that, and then I have currently work for a plant nursery, and I ended up doing like the grow team budget. And I asked my boss all the time, like, why did you hire an English major to do math? Like, I don't know, I'm not a math person, but you end up learning all kinds of things when you have to do the
Yeah.
things you want to do, right? So on that note, I haven't actually asked you what you're doing. So tell me about your project and about your book, because I'm so excited. I when I was like looking at it, I'm like, children's books. So and
Yeah.
before, and I'm going to interrupt you before I even let you answer the question, because my mother was a first grade teacher, and she first grade is when they learn to read, and so she loved children's books and collected them, and she collected like all the Caldecott medals and Newbery Award and like all of it. She had these huge children's books collections. So I just weirdly grew up with like lots and lots of these around, and just passionately love them, and I get really excited when anybody does
That's
children's books. So yeah.
in my house. each room is like a theme. And so our sunroom is where the wild things are. My son is Max. And then our living room is like Alice in Wonderland. And
Oh my gosh.
the Hobbit is the nursery, which is now my son's room. And my daughter's room is Peter Pan. So I was like, I will never grow out of
Those
children.
are four of my favorite books of all time. Like, I actually have tattoos of some of them, so I'm not going to
Same.
show them because, like, yeah. But yeah, oh, that's fabulous. Now I want to see yours. But after
I
the
do. I
formal part,
am
like,
very proud of my Where the Wild Things tattoo. Took me a while because I was like, I know I want it, but I always want to be like the obscure stuff. And so it's
yeah,
Max jumping over a soup bowl because I like the idea
yeah,
of the end, like the soup is still hot. And I'm like, yes, it always reminds me, go adventure and you can always come home.
yeah.
And so I was like, that one I like. My Alice in Wonderland is like warping. It was like my first tattoo when you don't know things. And you're like that naive little girl who goes into a big parlor and they're like, yeah, let's make it way more expensive and weird looking.
Oh no, mine isn't. The Alice is like the biggest one I have, and it's down most of my back, and it's like absolutely passionate. I'll show you later, but and I'm like, I'm like, okay, my podcast is getting super weird now. I'm going to be like trying to show my back tattoo on camera. Oh my god, that would be fabulous. But now people are going to want me to do that. You realize that, like at some point. But my dad gave me a copy of Alice in Wonderland for my 8th birthday, and I have it. It's actually, I can see it from where I'm sitting, and inscribed in the cover, like, you know, to Jackie, love Daddy, and whatever. And so it's like just a prized possession of mine. And the version he got me has those old black and white illustrations, like the ink ones with, you know, and I love the artwork, you know, and, you know, I'm an artist as well. So like, that was one of my early, like formative art things, you know.
Yeah.
And then I guess when I was young, my dad used to copy cartoons out of news strips. So he would just like the Sunday comics, you know, and he would like sit there and copy them. So that's actually how I didn't go to art school or anything, you know, like I just taught myself along the way. But I started out by copying like Charlie Brown and like things from like the comics because my dad did that. I've done a lot of Calvin and Hobbes. Like I just, and it's incredible with those children's books illustrations. Like, you know, I've copied the mouse. I can see him from Peter Rabbit, like the little characters, and the little what's the one that I can't think of the name of the books right now, where it's like a little animal and he doesn't want to go to bed or something. I can't remember the name of the book, but I copied the illustrations and it'll pop into my head later in the call. But basically, if you put even one line slightly out of place for those, like it's like you're like, oh, it doesn't look anything like Mickey Mouse or whatever I'm trying to copy, and you realize quickly, like they're really highly skilled, these illustrators, like really, like because you try to copy it and it's like any little thing you do out of place or whatever, it doesn't quite look like them. But so I have just this huge fondness for cartoons and children's illustrations too, like the way that they do the
I have
art.
no skill.
Oh
my
yeah.
mom is like this complete artist, and my daughter will be like, "Mom, draw a horse," and she'll be like, "It looks like a cow," and I was like, "I know, like this is all I got." Like I have no artistic. I can't draw. I can do other artistic mediums, but drawing is not in there. I wasn't my own illustrator.
I asked you to tell me about it, and then I totally like interrupted you and went off in a different direction. So tell me about your book. Tell me about your book.
So it is a children's book meant to talk about mental health. I have depression, and I knew that my daughter was going to eventually recognize like those cloudy days. And so it was always, how do we talk to her about this? And at night, it started as a bedtime story where we would talk about what happened during the day. And if I was having an off day, I would say the cloud was there. And we would share a story about how it was really sunny out and she was having fun. And that was great. But mom had a cloud. And for me, the beach is always like a love relationship because sensory, I don't love lotion. I don't love water. And so I would explain to her, like, you know how you love the ocean? That's great. You know how mom goes anyways? I just do different things than you do. And so we developed it into this story to help parents kind of start conversations about big feelings by explaining, like, mom has a cloud. And I did hire an illustrator, Juliana, and it's fantastic.
Mhm.
She did a lot of shading where you're able to see like the family's all in the sunshine and mom is under this cloud and she's really
Uh,
dim. But it doesn't
mhm.
mean she goes home. It doesn't mean she doesn't play with them at all. They just learn, instead of begging her to go in the water, they play around her and they like include her in the day in the way that mom needs it.
That is so, oh my gosh, there's so many things there, I also have depression, although I haven't had one in many years now, but obviously that was what led to the Unicycles project in the first place is,
Mhm.
the reason it was raising money for suicide prevention is because I had a near suicide attempt and, wanted to give back when I did recover. And so I also had young children at the time, they're older now. I have a 20-year-old and a 17-year-old, but at the time. And so I definitely remember exactly what that was like, and I would have loved to have a tool to communicate with them about it at the time, and I didn't have that, so got through it without, but I'm
Mhm.
so glad that you're doing the work you're doing because I've definitely lived through something like that. Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah, and I've been able to meet, I think a big goal of ours is the giving back. I have the therapy that I went to, mine is more like high functioning depression. So I'm always doing, but then I've been able to meet a lot of organizations that focus on like all kind of the facets of it and see what
Mhm.
they're doing. And a big goal of mine has been, in the back of the book, we share like conversation questions, but I also share some resources. And it's like, here's where to go if you have a cloudy day. And then I'm building up my blog to kind of list those out. My goal is to have a map and then you can click on your state and people can go there and find them. So I've been able to kind of reach around the states for now, and meet a bunch of people and just say, oh, do you need like one-on-one therapy? Do you need group therapy? Do you need family therapy or anything? And
Mhm.
kind of list them all there. And so it's been really great for me because I know, and I've talked about this when we did our launch. It's like I know I'm still gonna have cloudy days. They're just not gonna be as dark because I've been able to meet so many fantastic people that kind of show me, okay, you're not alone. People read because you don't
Well,
think that when
clearly
you're
clearly it's
in
working because, like I told you, you got me to go around, like, grinning my face off for a week straight, like, something there, you're picking up some kind of energy, that is shifting things, so, I don't know, maybe it's, like, those of us that have been through that, have that sunshine to, it makes you, um like, I just interviewed Ethan, like I was saying, and one of the things that's been sticking with me since that interview, he was talking about the importance of play because, he's the one that did the, playing
Mhm.
catch every day, and he said something like, and I'm gonna butcher the language he used, but it was something like, "If we don't play, we become, like, grumpy and cranky and, like, depressed," and I hadn't really connected those things in that way until that, and something about it just, I think, I'm always trying to get my kids to be more responsible, more adult because 'cause they're teenagers turning into adults, and I thought, "I'm going about this wrong, like, I should be encouraging them to rest and to play." Like, it's like I'm doing it backwards. Like I don't want them to be more productive and more responsible and more adult, I want them to be more childlike and like joyful and like relaxed, So I don't know, it just clicked for me.
It's the pause break, like where mine are 4 and 2, so we're trying to teach responsibilities and everything, and at the same time, it's where am I picking my battles? So like I know. When they eat at the dinner table, I was like, I've never met an adult who eats like a dog or puts all their food on the table and then like licks it up. So I know eventually they'll grow out of it because you haven't met anyone that just keeps that habit. So I'm like, if they eat like that, that's fine. But we also want them to then clean up the table after themselves. And so it's
Yeah,
like, I'll
yeah.
encourage the play, but then mom doesn't want to clean the table. So it's a balance.
Parenting is like that. And I'm not, it's not like, okay, they're adults and now I'm done or something. Like it's forever. But I've been through the young part, and like there was a point where my daughter was probably like young teens and we were a bit at loggerheads more than I had been with my son. And I called my best friend and I was just really frustrated. I was like trying to get them to do chores or something, and wasn't really working with her. And my friend was, we've known each other since we were 10, and she was like, look, I got to college and like I had never done my own laundry, or I didn't know how to clean a toilet. Or she was like, you know what, funny thing, when I got there, like I figured it out. She's like, she'll be fine. And somehow she got through to me that like whatever thing I was fighting with her about was not worth the sacrifice of my relationship with her, and that whatever
Mhm.
it was, she would, when she got there and she needed to know, like I would still be there to like, when she was in her 20s and she's like, I don't know how to clean this toilet, mom, what do I do? I'll be there. And so I was like, I need to back off. And sure enough, like we got through that, and my relationship with my daughter improved so much. And she's the most like amazing, responsible kid now. So I think it's like funny that I ever doubted that she would be that way. But we get stuck. We get stuck in our own whatever it is. Like if I don't teach them this now, they're not going to be okay. And it's like anxiety or something.
Yeah. Unfortunately now, I mean, with social media and everything, a lot of it's comparison. And I
Yeah.
did a whole pod about that last night where it's just like moms kind of we put so many adjectives around our names and it's just like just do what you're doing. And if your kids are saying I love you and they're still alive, like you're doing pretty well.
I know I had very minimal expectations in the end for myself because I had so many bumps along the way. And at some point, I finally just lowered my expectations to keep their limbs attached, keep their brains inside their heads, and like give them as much education as you have access to. And that was it. And I was like, that's like my bare minimum of like, I succeeded and I managed to do those things okay. So I'm like, I got this. I got the checklist. But the rest of it kind of like came along for the ride. I don't know.
Yeah.
There
I
comes
think
a
that's
point where like you lose control anyway, like they take over. So I don't
yeah,
know.
it's gonna be when they go to
Yeah,
school. And their
some of
friends are
that.
cooler than mom. So they'll listen to them more. Like I'm ready for it. But I like in ours, there's just been something with the cloud language where I'm like, it's kind of given me permission to be flawed because it's just
Yeah.
telling her, like, hey, I can't today. I have a cloud. Like, I can't
Yeah.
be on. And she gets it and she's okay with that. She did call me out because one day I came home and I just, our house, I like anxiety cleaning. And so I was like, I want
Me
to
too.
clean. And she was like, can you play with me? And I was like, no, I have things. And she goes, is it a cloud? And I was like, no. And she's, I want to clean the house. And she was like, well, I give you space with clouds. If it's not one, you can come play. And I was like, she's got me there. But so I did turn it into like, okay, we'll play like 5 minutes this and let me clean this and 5 minutes this. I was like, so she's kind of learned where to push and where to give space. And I was like, so that kind of helps ground me too. It's like, she's right. I don't need to get this done right now because there are going to be times when I can't focus and play with her. So balancing me out too.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I love that. Like she's able to differentiate between like, okay, that this thing you told me was important. Okay, then no, then cool. I'm gonna push back.
Yeah.
They're so smart, man. Like I don't know, all of our kids are like emotionally smarter than us, I feel like, on some level. I don't know, there's some kind of maybe it's all these changes that we're um bringing where they're feeling that greater permission to be themselves and be like fully expressed than any generation before. And I think it's great, but I'm just like, oh man, they're so much better at this sometimes. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, my daughter's 4 going on like 14, and I love it, but I'm also like, you weren't supposed to have some of these like grown arguments with me this young. And a lot of it I credit to like the Montessori language. Like it is the not just saying no or don't do this, it's explaining why. And so then they're able to turn around and explain why a lot more. Whereas my generation was really just what your parents said goes.
Sure.
And there was
Yeah.
no, you never had
Yeah.
another side of that conversation. And like the fact that we are pausing and letting them kind of ask questions and answering those questions. I'm like, it's just a longer conversation with them. And I'm excited for her. I'm like terrified and excited. Like she will turn into a teenager eventually and we'll see what she chooses to do with the world. I'm like, hopefully for good, right? She's on my side.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, my son
If
was
she wants to take
more
over, she will.
he was more that like challenging young, and I won't embarrass him by going into what the challenges were, but I always felt and was really confident that if I could get him to adulthood, he would be incredible. And like I now have the joy of like watching all the things that were like problematic when he was 4 or 5, be just like bowling people over in his 20s, and I'm just like, I knew it. I knew if I could get him there, like that would be amazing. But like when your like 5-year-old is like insistent that they want to drive the car or something, and you're like, you can't yet. Like there are real reasons I can't let you do this. And I'm like, when you get there, you'll be great, but you are not ready. So yeah.
I remember we went for her parent teacher conferences and they were trying to explain to us what was going on. And they were like, it's not that she's not good at sharing. It's just like her language is so far ahead of everyone that
Yeah.
when she wants something, she explains in like really long, full sentences why she should have the toy and what she's going to do. And then the other kids just don't know what to say. So they just like hand it over to her. And they're like, so it's not wrong. Like she is saying, like, you play for a little bit and then I'll take it and I'll do this. And it's just like so well explained that they're just like, take it. And they're like, so she's not bad at it. She just like that next level. And I was like, yeah, well, I need to get her into something when she's older, like the debate team, or what are they, like
Mhm.
Toastmasters or
Oh,
something.
definitely.
She's acting now, so I'm like, we'll see how we just hone all of
I
this because
yeah,
that
I
will be
can't tell
fun.
you how many times I turned to him and was like, "You should go to law school when you're older." He'd love to argue. And he was really like, oh my gosh, what was the thing? My mom was trying to bribe him. She didn't want him to ever get tattoos, I think it was. And so she was trying to like bribe him with like she was like, "I'll pay for your college if you won't get tattoos," or something. I forget what argument they were having, but he just was like relentless and kept coming up with like new explanations for like why he should be allowed to do what he was doing. And I don't remember which battle it was, but like I finally just turned to him and I'm just like, yeah, you should go to law school when you get older. But he's doing engineering, so he just turned it in a different direction.
I want her to like go be on the board of a school or something where usually they make really bad decisions and she just goes in and was like, this is ridiculous. And because
Yeah.
everyone who's on the board of education, usually they're not teachers and they make all these decisions that go haywire. I'm like, go change the bad planning.
Oh my gosh, so many threads. So, like, let's circle back to the book again because I keep getting derailed. So, how did you originally? Well, you told me you conceived the idea, but like, when was that? How long ago? And Like, just tell me more about it, I guess, because I feel
yeah,
like we got off the topic a bit. And I could totally talk about my kids and your kids all day, but I'm interested in this book
that's
project.
where
Yeah.
and it kind of resonates. Like when I read the book out loud, I say to kids, like, we're going to talk about feelings, and every kid can pop in some example of when they saw their mom or dad sad, and they'll tell you the tea. Like, in one school I had to be like, okay, this isn't, I don't need to know your parents' business. But when my daughter was 2 and her language was taking off, we had gotten pregnant again. And I said, postpartum was so rough for me, like the way I was.
Mhm.
And even her in her newborn phase, I had to tag out a lot. And my husband was handling her. And she was like traumatized by anything that had to do with me feeding her because of a tongue tie issue. And
Okay.
so I felt like I didn't bond with her for the first 6 months. And when we got pregnant again, I was like, if that happens again, and I don't bond with my son or I go through stuff, it's going to be very visual for her. She's going to see it. She has language now. She's
Mhm.
going to see when I have to walk out of the room. And I didn't want her to feel that it meant I didn't like her brother or that it was something she did. And so I was like, we had to find a way to start talking to her about this. And so we started the conversations where at night it was a lot of like, what was the best thing of the day? What would you change about today? What do you want to do tomorrow? And the more I would realize that the big stuff I would write in my head that was like the worst thing I did today, she was never talking about. It was all the good stuff. And so I was like, so we can have this conversation about, well, today mom had this cloud and I wish I could have played here, but I didn't. And maybe tomorrow we'll try. And so it just was something I was developing and I wanted to write down for her because I do a lot of scrapbooking too. So I was
Mhm.
like, I'll write down like this little scrapbook so she remembers like the cloud is what got us through it. And the more I was writing it down and kind of started to talk to people about it, because I was like on threads and stuff. I was like, I'm going to make myself accountable for talking about this. So I made the Instagram. And when people were resonating, I was like, I want to share this. And so it sort of, that's when we turned it into a book and said, let's make the book and kind of put the language in there, put the story, and then really do a lot of the heavy resources in the back to just, I had a blog too, where I just share the
Mhm.
stories of it's the hard day and just kind of trying to be the voice of it, because when I was like there at 2 a.m. kind of searching, does anyone else feel this way? Like what I needed wasn't really popping up. And
Yeah.
so it's like,
Yeah.
put it out there. So then if someone searches, like the story is very visual because then they can find it and not feel alone.
So you've been doing this for like a couple of years or
About 2 years now.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay.
started about 2 years ago, and then the book took maybe like a year and a half to fully become it. So we just launched that in March, but the blog
Oh,
I've
it's
been
brand
doing
new.
for a while.
Oh, I didn't
Yeah,
realize it was that recent. That's so
yeah.
exciting.
So it's been an adventure, and now I have to write. I'm currently writing the second one. I did sign on for 3 because what was important to me too was when I told everyone I had depression, a lot of it was like, you, because I'm very
Mhm.
extroverted. And I was like, yes, here's what it looks like. It looks like the cloud. Like I'm here, it's sunny. I have a cloud. You don't see it.
Yeah.
I am in it. And so when I signed on for 3 books, originally it was because I wanted to normalize it. It was just like, I want to do 3 locations, the beach, something, something. And I just want to like put it out there that it's completely normal for it to show up all the time. And as I was like podcasting and meeting people, I was like, I want to change the cloud a little bit. So the first
Mhm.
book is very much mine. It's high functioning. We go out. The second one is going to be more of that you are there, but you can't get yourself to do anything. So like you don't
Mhm.
participate. So it's the darker cloud. And then the third one, we're not even going to leave the house because it's just going to be like, no, I can't today. And then we're going to see what it's like to just kind of how the family reacts to like, mom just wants to
Yeah.
stay in her room today. And so I'm trying to kind of shift those perceptions on like, yes, this is what it can look like. You can learn about all the different emotions there.
I really like that. I had the at the time where I couldn't get out of bed, you know, like really severe, and just would disappear from the world. And kind of the worst thing about that kind and the way I was experiencing it at the time was like, it would, you know, I'm not really an extrovert, to people's surprise. I'm actually an introvert, but I like appear to other people to be very extroverted because I love people. It's like a weird, you know, like, but you know, I recharge by being alone, but I love people. So I'm kind of, I guess ambivert is the correct term. But um people, you know, perceive me as being this like extroverted, outgoing person or whatever, but I just would drop out and it would be like no one noticed. Like, and I would have this feeling like, oh, I could just disappear and nobody would care. Kind of, that was the bad part of it, right? It was like, because I would just sort of like want to hide that I was going through things. And I still do that to this day. Like when I'm going through stuff, like people won't know, you know, or only if they're paying close attention. You know, the same old things: don't ask for help, don't reach out, like just disappear, just drop off. But that feeling of like, oh, I could go away and I don't matter, like, and no one would notice, like that was a really destructive narrative. And I've worked really hard to like undo that story when it pops up, because I'm just like, no, that's not actually like, the way it is, you know. But yeah, so anyway, just I'm looking
No,
forward
and that is
to more of your
exactly
work on that. Yeah.
that feeling. So everyone, like, they're like, oh, but you are always like party planning and you're always doing this. And I was like, that, what you said is kind of the reason. I'm like, I overextend myself because it's this fear that if I don't make the plans, would you even make it? Like, would you invite me if I didn't invite you first? And so I try and tell people it's not coming from like that I don't love being with you, but a lot of it is like nervous energy too, that I need to have my calendar full. I need to feel surrounded. I need to feel like someone out there knows like this week I'm going to
Yeah.
see you, because if I don't do it, what happens? And I know that in reality it would be like some people would be like, hey, I haven't seen you in a while. I have not comfortably, because I say like clouds still exist, I have not comfortably got to that place where I can look at a week in my day planner and have nothing planned. Now my husband is fine and loves me despite that, because I have learned in our therapy to like block off days where at least I have something planned, but the plan is just sitting home and doing nothing.
I
Like
did
I
that
have to work
too.
really
Yeah.
hard on it. But it's that same like that nervousness. And then on the flip side, it's like then it's this, I have to be out there. Like if I do drop off, everyone's like, what's wrong with you? And I was like, well, nothing. I think I just am
Now
calm
they
this week.
now they know.
But then
Yeah.
and they're like, well, why? And I'm like, okay. But you know, I remember when you were talking about it, we did foster at one point. That was before we had kids, because with all the depression, I was like, I don't want to like pass this on. So we had never really thought about it. So we fostered for a while. And we did have one person where we fostered families who needed support so they didn't lose their kid. So it was like, hey, one mom had depression and she would just text and say, I need to stay in this weekend. I need to shut all the doors and I need to stay in bed. Can you take the kid? And that was one of our first fostering experiences. And it was before I talked about my depression. I kind of thought of that now, but it was like, we used to then be that support to just say, okay, your mom's gonna like have a nice rest this weekend. And he would come hang out at our house and we'd play basketball and do like little sleepovers. He was the first person in our Peter Pan room. And I remember I was so excited because like my mom did a mural and we did like shooting stars on the wall, and I got all this themed stuff from the thrift store. And he was sleeping over in there, and it was like the first night we had a kid in there, and he comes out that he was scared of the crocodile and he was like crying and losing his mind. I was like, oh no, I don't want to have to redo this whole room. And then now I love it so much. And my daughter was like, she's into something else, and she's like, can I redo my room? And I was like, never. Like, I will build an attachment on the house for your room before I will change that Peter Pan room.
Peter Pan
But our
room.
experience was really like trying to understand when someone just needed to like tag out and be like, hey, we got you. And I was like, a lot of people don't do that without that heavy
My
guilt of
daughter
it.
my daughter and I, we use the, language of the spoon theory a lot. I don't know if you've, I assume you've run across it, and, for people that haven't heard of it, but I think most people probably have heard of it by now, but it has to do with, like, how much energy you have, and often, used by people that have conditions like, chronic fatigue or something like
Mhm.
that. And so spoons is used to represent like how much energy you need. So if you have like, you know, a spoon drawer full of spoons, then maybe you have enough to get through, like, getting up, going to work, taking a shower, going to work, like going to the grocery store, coming home, those things. But if you wake up that day and you only have two spoons, you have to like allocate them to the most important things, right? So it might be like, the only thing I can do today, I'm going to skip my shower and I'm just going to go to work, and you end up like having to choose because you just don't have enough. And then some days, like, you wake up and you're just like, today's like a 12 spoon day for no reason whatsoever. And it sometimes it's not, you just don't know ahead of time. So how do you plan? Like, we're going to Disneyland next month or something, and you're like, oh, I don't know how many spoons I'm going to have when that comes around, and you just have to hope that maybe your symptoms don't flare up, or that you're not having like whatever it
Yeah.
is. So a lot of us with these things, we have to like, be a little flexible in that kind of planning, where you're like, well, these are the activities I could do if I end up having this many spoons, but if I just don't, then I'll stay at the hotel room while everybody else does the thing, or whatever. You have to like kind of have a dual plan or something like that.
Mhm.
But when you were talking about like the explaining to your child with the language of the cloud or whatever, and so both my daughter and I, I'm not officially diagnosed, but we both believe like we're on the autism spectrum as well. Like, the best explanation I've come up with is that I'm probably ADHD, was just ADHD with autism, and so we use that language as well to communicate with each other. And we'll be like, are you on or are you off? And I'll be like, oh, are you switched off right now? And she'll be like, and when she's switched off, we can't, like, we can be in the same space, but we can't interact. So like, and I'll just, so we have communication. It's almost like, I call it the weather report when we first see each
Mhm.
other. Because often, she is 50% with her dad. So we have periods where we don't see each other. When she comes back, I'll kind of give her the weather report. Like, this is how many spoons I have right now, and this is what my mood is like, and this is what's been going on while you're away. And when I get home, I'm going to want to be switched off. And like, we'll kind of match up like, hey, are you going to want attention? And, because she's
Yeah.
grown, like, we're able to dialogue about it more than when you're a kid. But so you find language to like
Yeah.
represent the things, that work
I love
for
that.
you. But yeah.
My husband will ask me like, where are you at? And it
Yeah.
just, I'm like, if I can tell him, then I'm like, I know it's okay. But one of the big things when I was doing the book with an editor, and I ended up kind of switching my editor after the fact because it was like butting heads, because you can do social emotional language, but it was different to understand like the metaphor of depression. And so he kept fighting me in the beginning that he's like, well, mom wakes up happy, and you need to have her not wake up happy. It's like, that's not how it works.
Right.
Like it
Right.
really is that
Mhm.
sometimes I wake up and I'm so excited to go to the beach, and we're driving along and I'm still excited. And then you just get to the beach and the cloud rolls in, and you're like, I don't know why it just showed up. I
Mhm.
was
Mhm.
trying to be here. And I have chronic autoimmune illness too, and so it very much is like I'll wake up excited for that day, and I'm just like, no, it's off today.
Mhm.
And I'm like,
Mhm.
any errands that were on the list, I'm like, I don't have the energy for that, like move it to tomorrow. And so like I like the on off language, because that is what happens. Like I wake up and I'm like, oh yeah, today is this day, and I'm like, no, don't have
And it can
it.
be like in the middle of something. Like, we
Yeah.
can be having like a really fun time. Like, we're cooking together in the kitchen, we're having a good time or something. And then just like abruptly it'll be like, I'm done. I,
Mhm.
I need to switch off. And so it's disappointing because you're like, oh, I'm feeling really connected with you right now or whatever. But like, then
Yeah.
I have the permission to do that when it happens to me. And we've like sort of practiced at it until we can do it more
Yeah.
smoothly. So
And
yeah.
we've practiced not asking why a lot. So it's just,
Yeah.
you just need to hear like, I'm off, and be like, all right, plan B. And be like, don't make me explain why. Cause when I can't, it's gonna feel even worse. 'Cause it's gonna be like,
Yeah.
I don't know why. Now I feel bad that I don't know why. So it's just like, hey, it's here. Okay, let's
Yeah.
move on.
Well, and so I told you the autism spectrum stuff, and she's not the only one. Me and my daughter, and then many in my family now are on that. And I try not to like specify who and what, because just to kind of protect some privacy. But one of my family members has a condition called selective mutism. So when they get upset, they literally cannot speak. And so sometimes you can't even communicate. Like, I've switched off or I've switched modes. They'll just do something like leave the room or go put on headphones or something, and you just have to like, oh, they've exited the
Mhm.
program or whatever. But but there's always like, um, when it's a child, there's this tendency for people to like swoop in and be like, "What's wrong? Like, tell us. Why won't
Mhm.
you tell us?" And kind of like put the additional pressure. And it turns out like there really is like kind of an actual off switch there where they can't speak. So like people
Yeah,
you don't have the awareness around some of these aspects, and I think the more of it gets out there, the more people will be able to handle like other people's stuff, and know that those exist, and not like react in those ways that are not helpful.
exactly.
So
And so a big part of it too, which I completely missed, but it did start with like, I have a cloud pillow, and it was like, I can put it, because I was working from home, and it was something I can like put on the desk and be like, just let me focus, let me do this. Or if I did leave the room, I'd kind of grab it and hold it so they can see like, mom's holding it, it's here, because it was hard to explain this invisible thing. And so when we were doing like one of the I ended up with, I did a Drop Dead Generous grant, and then they ended up funding me to get some swag for the book, because I wanted a button maker and I wanted cloud pillows. And so the
yeah.
idea is we are making buttons that can be whatever it is. If it's a cloud too, if it's, my daughter is a tornado, she likes to say, and my son likes to be a
Tornado.
rock. And so the idea is like, maybe it's something tangible you put on, or you show someone like, hey, this
Yeah.
is what's going on. I have it until I take this off. Like, give me space. And so I talk to families about like, yes, using the book and the language, maybe it's not your language, but finding whatever that thing is to
For
say, like you said,
you.
like if I put
Mhm.
headphones on, then don't come over until I take the headphones off. And yeah, it's hard with kids, because even cycle breaking, like sometimes my kids are just not feeling it, and people are like, oh, give me a hug, say hello, do this. I'm like,
Mhm.
let them decide what they want to do. Like,
Right,
if you
right.
keep forcing it on them and they're not comfortable, it's not going to be the quality you think it is. And
Yeah.
it's hard, but it is something I think we are doing a lot better now, giving that kind of kindness to people in general, to say, okay, what do you need?
Yeah. Oh, that's a great way to put it. What do you need? And I love the idea of having some kind of visual thing, because so many of our family ones revolve around not being able to communicate, and
Mhm,
um, I think that some kind of like prearranged signal is really, really helpful. Yeah.
mhm.
I'm so glad I got to like catch up with you
Yeah.
finally and like learn more about this. And I'm gonna have to like actually go check out your Instagram and your book and all of it now, because I have a feeling I'm gonna love it.
Mhm.
Like, but yeah, thank you, and thank you for your time. I'm
Thanks,
gonna
thanks.
like, we're wrapping up the hour, so I'm gonna hang up the formal recorded part of the call, and then I want to stay on and say goodbye properly. So hold on one second while I figure out again how to. You saw me have all my technical difficulties at the beginning of this. I'm totally learning as I go. So, all right, hold on. Video call is being recorded. Yeah, yeah, stop recording. All right. Goodbye, lovely people. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Kendall.